Good morning. I am Jenae Edwards, and the title of my chapel talk is Gucci Down to the Dashiki. We live in a time where one's culture is becoming the biggest part of their identity. With the need to culturally express oneself, people have turned to fashion. The dashiki trend that hit in the 1960s had many African Americans wearing dashikis, a tunic originating in West Africa made of colorful fabrics to show pride in their African culture. However, when someone other than a person of color was seen wearing a dashiki, it was deemed inappropriate. From here arises the issue of cultural appropriation in the United States. Kia Lewis from Florida Agricultural and Mechanical University defines cultural appropriation as, quote, the use of elements of one culture by members of another culture applied when an oppressed culture's elements are mocked and compromised by the dominant culture, end quote. However, in America, this term is used very lightly, mainly because there is little to no distinction between race and culture in the United States. In terms of fashion, individuals are quickly judged when the clothes they are wearing do not pertain to their race. Regardless, cultural appropriation does not apply when a person of a different race or culture is wearing another's cultural fashion. Cultural fashion is substantially shared between cultures, and many of these cultures have already had some type of influence from another. This is why cultural appropriation does not exist in fashion. One way that cultural fashion is consistently shared is through tourism in many countries. Take my country, for example. If a foreigner were to travel to the Bahamas, one thing they would continually see in tourist markets is androja wear, the cultural apparel of the Bahamas. Now, if this foreigner were then to return to their homeland wearing this androja wear, even though they are not Bahamian, they would not be appropriating Bahamian culture. Cultural appropriation cannot exist when a culture is directly sharing their apparel with foreigners. Furthermore, everything is being shared. Cultures have adopted traditions and traits, including fashion, from each other. Yuval Noah Harari, a New York Times best-selling author, says, quote, we talk a lot about authentic cultures, but if by authentic we mean something that developed independently and that consists of ancient local traditions free of external influences, then there are no authentic cultures left, end quote. The trend of jeans universalized fashion and is accepted in different cultures despite originating in the United States. America, a very dominant country, has never taken issue with smaller countries wearing jeans, and these smaller countries proudly share their culture with the rest of the world. But to Americans that have even the slightest bit of another cultural background, it is an issue when a woman who is not Indian wears a sari, or when a woman who is not Asian wears a kimono, or even when someone who is not black wears a dashiki. The only reason that cultural fashion can be deemed inappropriate is when a culture is being mocked, when sacred objects are used, or when credit is not being given to the culture. However, as Sharpay Evan points out in her song Fabulous from High School Musical, she has iced tea imported from England, lifeguard imported from Spain, towels imported from Turkey, and turkey imported from Maine. The world is connected. Consider this fact before using the term cultural appropriation, because like the boy who cried wolf, this term will lose its true significance. Thank you.